I've kind of spoken quite intensively about how my baby didn't sleep.
Well, let's go to the tweet then. So the tweet that you posted that went viral was, okay, so what happens when the sleep consultant refunds you after 2 days saying they're totally baffled by your baby?
Yeah, it went viral. I wasn't even trying to be funny. That was a genuine, like, what do you do?
Well, because also at that point, like, we know how difficult not sleeping, we know how awful that is. And then to hire someone in who's going to make everything better and for them to go, no, actually, you know, cope with it for a bit and then we'll come back in a few months and you know, once they're over this stage and then we can focus on it again. Like, that's literally leaving someone when they're in the trenches, like that feeling of sleep deprivation and you put it somewhere else as well, that thing of no one, it was a post that you've written that no one tells you that when you're feeding or if you're exclusively breastfeeding your baby and that's the choice that you've made, that you then you might only get 19-minute windows of sleep. You know, my first, he would get up, I'd feed him. Feeding would take forever because it didn't come naturally to either of us. It'd take us 45 minutes to go back to sleep. So that was an hour and a half. Then I'd have to wake him up an hour and a half after that to start the feed again. So you're getting 90-minute windows throughout the night. You're on your own. You're absolutely fucking shattered. And no one tells you that.
I heard, because I used to work for a charity that's sort of specialised in mental health, and so I'd been reading lots about attachment parenting and all this sort of stuff. I was really nervous of any sleep training or any non-responsive. And I didn't realise and I didn't find it because obviously I had no spare time with my job. By the time I contacted the sleep consultant, I think my baby was 5 months old. I'd not slept for more than 3 hours.
And she was her nap times in the day were 30 minutes on the dot.
Yes.
Same as mine. Yeah.
And she would only nap whilst fully attached to my breast, sucking. And she'd kind of, if I wanted, and so I had no day or night. I had no, it's Tuesday, now it's Wednesday, now it's Thursday. It would be, she needs to nap. I would have to just go and sit in the dark upstairs whilst her fully attached to my breast. And I was working, I was writing this book while that happened. I don't know how I managed it. And then come down. And then the only time she would sleep maybe for more than 3 hours was between like 8 and half 11.
Right.
Is that you get your big sleep. And so we'd put her down at 8. And I'd be like, well, I have to go to sleep. You have to chase the sleep. You chase the sleep. So I'd be in bed by 8:30 and then she'd wake at 11 and I'd have to breastfeed her back and then wait till she was fully asleep. Put my finger in her mouth, pretend it was nipple for another 20 minutes, wait until she's in a deep sleep, try and put her back into the cot like you're diffusing a bomb. Yeah. Like walk away. Sometimes she'd wake up and I'd have to start all over again. Yeah. And I was so ill mentally. Like, I don't mind saying that. And, you know, sometimes she would wake up and I was gone and I would just like have to go and scream into a pillow in the other room and my husband would have to get her and he'd be like, my wife is screaming and it was because
I think so many people hearing that will absolutely relate to it because it makes me want to cry because I know that. Do you know what I mean? I absolutely know that feeling of complete and utter despair and frustration but this is a beautiful little human that you absolutely love, but fuck me, I'm depleted.
I was just so... And I just had no time. And I was trying to work, which is insane. Like, as I said, when you're like, I like this book, I'm like, this book?
You can write something so raw when you're feeling so raw.
I think so. But I remember... And like, what I like one of the things I like most about my personality, I don't like lots of myself, but I'm always able to find the funny story. I remember we realised we needed to get help when... it was this time so we're recording this in December. So it's like the first week of September when I'm talking to you. You'll make me cry.
Sorry.
And it is funny. It was not funny at the time, but Santa Claus came to our road. And I don't know if this happens where you live, but there's like the local Rotary Club. Now I think it happens all around the UK. Yeah. They get like a caravan and they deck it up with fairy lights and they have a man dressed as Santa at the top and they blare carols and they come down the road. And like they come and ask for money for the Rotary Club. Yeah. It's usually a wonderful Christmas tradition. So that happened, and I had just spent an hour and 45 minutes getting my baby to sleep at night, and then you just heard silent, like blaring. And I was like, Santa's going to wake the baby. And I couldn't. I was like, it can't. I spent an hour and 45 minutes. I knew it would take another hour and 45 minutes till she wake up. And my husband was like, where are you going? And he said, I just left. I went running out into the street in my pajamas and just stood in front of Santa Claus. Like Gandalf, like, you shall not pass. And I just went, Santa, no. And I was like, you cannot come down this road. My baby is just, and I was like crying. And they were like, whoa. And I was like, it's too loud. And I was like, it's 8:20. All of the kids are asleep anyway. Do you not understand, children? Like yelling at this poor man dressed as Santa. And he was like, I did. And I was like, no. And it was like the fierceness of me. And he just reversed. It was the lowest point, I think, of my parenting. I'm going to half cry, half laugh. Lowest point of my parenting journey is watching Santa Claus reverse a caravan out our road, just beep, 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 while I'm just standing there.
That energy though, once he's gone, like, how did that feel? Like, in that moment, were you like...
I am insane.
Yeah.
I have stopped Santa Claus visiting my neighbours' children. I mean, it was 8:20. They were already asleep.
Yeah. What were they thinking?
Yeah, I'm like, no kids up at 8:20. And that's when I was like, and my husband was like, he asked that question, he went, how do you feel about what's just happened? I was like, I don't feel great. I usually really like Christmas. I usually really like Santa. And I remember just like the shame. Like, we're laughing, but like, that's not the behaviour of a healthy person. Like, most people don't verbally abuse Santa Claus and the rest. And that's when we got the first sleep consultant.
Really?
Yeah, because we were like, again, I didn't have time to, and so we just got somebody that had been recommended. And they did, I have to say, it did work for a day. And I think this is what baffled the sleep consultant, is they taught us this thing, and it was a responsive things that, you know, we just kept going back in. And I remember the sleep consultant saying, your baby's amazing, because after a day she slept through. And we just were like, oh my God.
So quick. Yeah.
Within a day, you know, we put her down by that night, because you start practicing on the naps, don't you? And I remember just weeping with happiness, like weeping. And then my child didn't do it again. Just wouldn't. It was just, she did it once to prove she could.
I can, guys. I don't want to.
And she didn't. And that's when the woman was like, I don't understand. Like, I really don't understand. And like gave us the money back, which is really nice of them. They were completely professional, and they've got these incredible reviews. It was just like, which made it worse. It's not like I'd found some, and that's where it was. I think I sent that tweet out of desperation. I was like, I literally don't know what to do. And then the tweet went viral. It was like, I think I said like over 1 million likes. And then I had every sleep consultant in the entire world get in touch to try and like take a crack at maybe. Gina Ford emailed me. You know?
No.
She emailed me herself to just be like, I not seen you. I don't know who you are. I don't know your baby, but I can tell you that you're not feeding your baby enough.
Really?
She was right. She's wise, Gina.